Scano, Sego, Ani. Hi, Samantha. We did it. We ignored the technology issues of uploading and downloading, and we made it. We made it. We're super excited to see you and be here, and for everyone joining us. Thank you for your patience. Yeah, we made it through. So we know we're supposed to be here today. So it's an honor to share this space with you today. This podcast is a reflection of the voices that guide us, the voices of our ancestors and the wisdom they've passed down through generations. Our stories is a place where reconciliation comes to life, where we celebrate the power of storytelling, and where we uplift the experiences of Indigenous people who are making a difference in the world today. My name is Jody Harbour, and on my father's side, my great-grandmother was from the Cayuga Nation, Six Nations of the Grand River Territory, also known as the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and in the Western world as the Iroquois Nation. My journey has been shaped by listening to the land, listening to the wisdom of elders, and to the quiet strength of those who've come before us. These voices have shown me the importance of carrying forward the values of compassion, resilience, and community. As an Indigenous woman, I am deeply committed to honoring these teachings and using them to build bridges of understanding and healing. Reconciliation isn't just about the past, it's about the present and the future. It's about listening to one another, learning together, and finding ways to support and uplift each other. It's about building bridges and walking a path where all of us, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, can thrive together. Through Grandmother's Voice, we've worked to create spaces where these values can grow. Our mission is rooted in the beliefs that Indigenous leadership, wisdom, and traditions are not just vital to our communities, they're vital to the world. We bring people together to share, learn, and heal, whether through programs, ceremonies, or community initiatives. And now, Our Stories extends this mission into the digital space, offering a new way to connect and inspire. Our Stories is about elevating the voices of Indigenous people who are listening to the guidance of our ancestors and creating something extraordinary in the world. Each episode is one-on-one conversation with someone who's making an impact, whether through healing, advocacy, education, or innovation. From the wisdom of our elders to the creativity of emerging leaders, these stories will reflect the spirit of reconciliation and the strength of our culture. In Indigenous culture, stories are everything. They teach us who we are, where we come from, and how to live in harmony with the world around us. They preserve knowledge, celebrate traditions, and guide us toward a better future. By sharing these stories, we honor our ancestors and remind ourselves their voices still have so much to teach us. As you listen to our stories, I invite you to reflect on what these stories mean to you. How can they inspire your own journey? How can you bring the values of reconciliation, kindness, and respect into your life and your community? This podcast is not just about listening. It's about action. It's about finding ways to walk this path together, to support one another, and to create a future that holds space for everyone. I'm honored to introduce today's guest, Samantha Doxtater. Samantha is a strong, inspiring voice in our community, a writer, educator, and advocate who brings her whole self to the work she does. Her journey is one of resilience and courage, shaped by her connection to her culture, her family, and her ancestors. Samantha is here to share her own grief journey and what she's learned along the way. She calls this conversation Keeping Your Grief in Light. Through her story, Samantha invites us to see grief not as something to fear or avoid, but as a teacher, a companion, and a bridge to deeper understanding. She'll share how she has honored her grief and kept it in the light, transforming it into something that guides her forward with love and clarity. This is not an easy topic, but it's an important one. Grief can be heavy, yes, but it can also be sacred, a connection to the ones we've lost and a reminder of the love we hold for them. And Samantha's story is one of strength, reflection, and light. And it's about how we can honor the pain of loss while continuing to carry our loved ones with us in meaningful ways. And so, as you listen to Samantha's story, thank you for your patience, Samantha, and thank you for your patience, everyone. I invite you to reflect on your own experiences with grief, what it might change if you looked at it through a lens of beauty and light, and how might that perspective bring healing, not only to you, but to those around you. So let's begin this journey together. Samantha, thank you for joining us today and for sharing your story with all of us. And let's explore what it means to keep your grief in the light and to honor it as a path forward. Good afternoon, Samantha. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Yawa for the wonderful introduction. Sagoli Swagweg. Hello, everyone. Yeji Stokwanun Niyon Gets. Otahuni Niwa Get the Lord. Onyata Aga Niwa Go Hajod. I'm from Oneida, Nation of the Thames. My clan is Wolf, and I'm really thankful that I can share this with you all today. Grief is something that we're all going to experience. And grief doesn't only come from death. Grief comes from any big change. It can come from relationship loss, job loss, friendship loss. Sometimes you're just giving up. Um, you're breaking up with a lifestyle that's no longer serving your purpose, and you have to grieve that. And 3 years ago, well, probably almost 4 years ago now, I told my auntie, this was like early 2021, and I told my auntie, I said, I think I want to help our people deal with grief because it like blocks us on our healing journeys. That grief, we get stuck there. And she was like, oh yeah. And so when I said that to her, I thought, you know, oh, I'll do some research and hypothesize some things and put that information together. I never in a million years thought I was going to learn about grief by losing the person closest to me. So in 2021, I lost my younger sister, Sasha, to cancer. She had ovarian cancer, and it spread really quickly. And when she went to have the operation, the doctor said it was inoperable, and it became incurable because it spread so quickly. So we had about, when she came out of her surgery, she passed away 1 week later. So we had 1 week, about 7 days, actually about 5 days, to have conversations um, about death. Conversations I never thought I would have. Conversation I never wanted to have. Um, and when she passed away, I was really like angry. Um, I I felt guilty. So those are normal feelings when it comes to grief. And I had to reach out. I have mentors that I really treasure. And so I reached out to my mentors and I said, what do you do when the person closest to you is going to pass away? And they told me, they said, you surround it with love. And I was like, what does that mean? Grieve with love? Like, surround death with love? Like, how do I do that? Like, I don't even understand the concept of it. That was something new to me. And so I worked really hard to make sure that the narrative of my sister's passing was surrounded with love. I put my anger aside. I put my guilt aside. And I made sure that every single thing we did in those last days that she was here, that it was surrounded with love. And it was felt. It was felt. She felt it. Our family felt it. And it was like the hardest thing I ever did, but it was the most special thing I've ever done. And so after the days after her passing, I apologized to my family and I said, I'm sorry that I said that earlier this year. I'm sorry that I said out loud that I wanted to help my people deal with grief. And I was still in a place of like, I didn't want to learn like this. So I was still in a place of like being really hurt by it. And I said, I'm sorry I said that. I don't know if I can help people deal with grief now because I didn't want it to be like this. And so I was in a strange place. And 6 weeks after Sash passed away, it was during COVID. And 6 weeks after she passed away, I got COVID. And when you're grieving, it takes a toll on your lungs. It affects your lungs. It weakens your lungs. A lot of our emotions, they'll like directly link to one of our organs. And grief, it weakens your lungs. And so when I got COVID, my COVID turned into double pneumonia COVID. I was put into a medically induced coma. And the doctors, they told my family I was going to die. But they didn't know who they were messing with. And when I say that, I don't mean myself. I mean my little sister. So Sash is, and will always be my biggest protector. When we were young, and our dad was teaching us how to fight, he taught me how to fight with my mind, but he taught my sister how to beat people up. And so Sash, she was my protector. She was my younger sister, but I didn't have to worry about those things. So we had that balance. And Sash also died on the same day our dad passed away on. So our dad passed away on July 18th. Sash passed away on July 18th. It was 17 years later than our dad, but Sash missed our dad so much. And I knew that the day she passed, that my dad came to get her, that he would be there with her, and that they would be reunited. And so it was a real special ceremony. And that's a real special day for me now. Some people dread the day that their person passed away on, but I look forward to it. It's real special. And so when I was in a coma for almost a month. And while I was in a coma, Sash came and got me. She came and got my spirit so that I wouldn't be so traumatized. And she took me to this middle plane. This middle plane, it's connected to Sky World. It's connected to Dream World. It's connected to Earth World. It's connected to Star World. It's connected to Water World. And while I was there, I thought that I brought my sister back to life because she was there with me the whole entire time. And I remember thinking, like, how am I going to explain this to people? What are people going to think? I don't even know if I'm supposed to have this gift. And so we just traveled around in this place, and it was the most beautiful place I've ever seen. Everything was just right around the corner. There's no concept of time. There's no concept of location. I went back to the 1950s and I seen my grandparents' siblings, and they were like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing here." And they said, "You're not supposed to be here yet. You still got work to do." I also went back to the 1800s, and my grandpa was there. My grandpa's still alive now, and he was the age he is now. But we went back to the 1800s, and we were at a funeral. It was like this lady. It seemed like it was my grandpa's mother, but I'm not sure. And we were in this like tiny little house. It was like a little cabin, and there was just enough room for her, um, like her coffin. And there was a whole bunch of little trinkets everywhere. And there was people there, and they're like taking care of my grandpa, and they were making him this soup for his grief, and they were making him this tea for his grief. And so, even though I was in this place, um, there was still grief there too. So grief exists, everywhere. It's a normal part. It's something we're all gonna experience. We're also all gonna make that journey one day. You know, they say that when we're born, we're given a stick. And on that stick marks how many days we're gonna be here on this earth world. And none of us know. And so we just have to be the best that we can be in each day and cherish those days because they're so special. And so I stayed in this place, this middle plane, for almost a month. Me and my sister, we would she was just there. It was just like normal. We would just go to all these places, and she'd be like, "Okay, I got to go do this now." And she's like, "I'll come back." And I was like, "Okay." So I don't remember coming out of the coma. But before I did, I went to this part, and there were these revolving doors. And these revolving doors had 4 sections. There was a revolving door for people passing away, and there was a revolving door for babies being born. And I remember going to the revolving door where the babies were being born. And I said, "Is it my turn yet? Can I go back?" And they said, "No, you have to wait for these babies to be born first." So I said, "Okay, I'll come back when it's my turn." And so I don't remember coming back. But when I woke up, when I came out of the coma, I still thought I brought my sister back to life. When I came out of the coma, I couldn't talk. I couldn't walk. I was kind of like a baby being born. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink. I was on a ventilator. I was on all these other things, these machines. I had a trach. So I couldn't talk. And my mom came to visit me, and she was on the phone with one of my dear friends, who is one of my mentors too. And I could hear them talking, but I couldn't reply because I couldn't talk. All I could do was listen. And so they're on the phone, and my friend, she said, "This is all part of Sam's grief journey. She had to go through this for her grief." And in that moment when she said that, I was like, "My grief journey? My grief for what? I'm not grieving anymore because I brought my sister back to life. I'm not in grief anymore." And then in that moment, that instant, it was like all my thoughts and everything that I just went through, it all recalibrated in my mind. And I knew what was a coma experience, what was real life, what was present day. So in that moment, I was like, God damn it, I didn't bring my sister back to life. And so my grief journey started all over again. But this time, I was in the hospital and I was alone and I couldn't talk. I was just like with my thoughts every day. I'm like, how am I going to go through this? How do I help myself understand this process? Because all I have is myself right now. And so I was just thankful that I was able to have that extra time with her, that I was able to go to that place that she came and got me. And so I just focused on that, of all those good things. You know, I had PTSD when I got out of the hospital. I was in a coma for almost a month, and then I was in the hospital for probably almost 2 more months. I checked myself out because it wasn't a healing place for me. And I had PTSD. I couldn't even drive by the hospital anymore. I felt sick. I couldn't watch hospital shows. That made me feel sick too. And so even though I had post-traumatic stress disorder, I also have post-traumatic gifts and post-traumatic understandings. And that was my focus. And so for the first year, I just sat with this. I just sat with this experience. I just sat with these understandings. I just sat with these thoughts of everything that I went through. I barely even told my family. And the first year went by and I thought, like, I could hear these voices in my head. And it was like, you have to tell your story. It's okay. It's time now. You can share your story. So that's when I would start to talk about it. And so keeping your grief in the light is understanding that it's a beautiful process. You know, we're the lucky ones because we're still here and we have like someone on the other side who is like gonna fight and do everything they can to still protect us. When our loved ones pass away, they don't disappear. They just become a glance at the stars away. They say they're the thickness of a leaf away, and that they'll still be there to help us, that they can still hear us, they'll still listen to us. And so when we think about our loved ones and when they pass away, you know, our loved ones, they also go through grief because they're losing all of us. All of us are losing that one person, but that person that passed away is losing all of us. So for our understandings, for Haudenosaunee understandings, when you pass away, you still stay here. Your spirit stays here for 9 more days. And on that 10th day, you travel and you go back to Sky World. So for those first 9 days after death, that's when you let yourself grieve. You feel all those things. Because that person who just passed away, they're also grieving. That's their big grief too. Those first 9 days where they're still here, they get to visit with us. They're grieving with us too. And then on a 10th day, they make that journey. And in our understandings, when the light, when the sun cracks the horizon, our spirit starts to make that journey. And Venus comes and gets your spirit and it guides it back to the Milky Way. The Milky Way is our pathway from sky world to earth world. We travel across it when we're born. We travel across it when we pass away. We have helpers. We call them Gayeni and Gwaedagate, our helpers that help us on that journey. And when we're born, when we're born and we travel across the Milky Way, when we're born, we're covered in stardust. And our family cleans us off. And we say those speeches to our babies that we welcome them here, that we're happy they made that journey. And you know how when somebody's having a baby, and you know how it's like everybody's there, you're just ready to love that baby. You don't know what it's going to look like, you don't know what time it's going to get here. Well, the ceremony of death is just as beautiful. When our loved ones pass away, we say those speeches to them that releases them from their responsibilities and their duties here, and that we hope they have that amazing journey back across the Milky Way, back to Sky World. So when you journey back and you get back to Sky World, you're covered in stardust again. And your family in Sky World welcomes you back, just like how we welcome a baby being born. You get welcomed back in Sky World. They clean you off and they welcome you back. It's a beautiful, beautiful process. And in that first year of grieving, you have to be kind to yourself. You have to be gentle. You have to do things that help to lift your own spirit. It's real easy to slip into the darkness of grief. Holding your grief in the light, that's where the work is. And so the first year, be kind to yourself. And, we always have those worries or those wonders, like the who, the what, the why, the where, and the whens. Like, those are things you have to be okay with possibly never knowing the answer to when it comes to grief. Like who, why, what, where, and when. Those are things you have to be okay with possibly never knowing the answer to when it comes to grief, because it'll block you on your healing journey. And there's no, correct amount of time. There's no one way to grieve. There's no, perfect recipe. But when you can understand the beauty of it, when you know how special that journey is, and that our loved ones will still be here to take care of us and connect to us, it's a beautiful thing. My sister, she visits me all the time. So Sash, she was really, she was in university. She just finished her bachelor's. She was going to start her master's, and she was eventually going to do her PhD because she wanted to become a professor. And so she started a lot of work on Haudenosaunee astronomy research. And about a year after she passed away, she would start coming into my dreams, and she would tell me to buy these books about stars. And she knew I didn't read a lot of books, but I'd wake up and I'd go on Amazon and I'd look for these books that she was telling me to buy. So I knew that she was pushing me to continue her work and her research on Haudenosaunee astronomy and our connection to Star World. And so one day I was like, okay, sister, I'll do it. I'm going to continue your work and your research. I don't know how. I don't know how to do it yet, but I'm going to do it. And once I said that, it was like I just got downloaded with all of this knowledge. And all of a sudden, I could make all these connections. And I had all these theories. And it's taken me on the most beautiful journey. A journey I didn't even know I needed. Because when I do this presentation that she started, I keep her in it. You'll hear her voice. You'll see a video of her. I think that's one thing, is that when we lose our loved ones, we don't want them to be forgotten. So when you can come to a place of like keeping your grief in the light, you're able to, include them in things so that they're not forgotten. So every time I do that presentation, I know that my sister is right beside me. I know that my research partner is in Skyworld, and now she has all the good information that she's sending me. And I know this for sure because I don't see spirits. Like, that's not one of my gifts. And I'm okay with that because it would probably be really busy. And so whenever I do this presentation, and we've traveled all over, we've traveled to the United States, we've traveled all across Haudenosaunee country. And every time, like, there's always somebody in the audience who can connect to spirit. And they're like, your sister wanted me to tell you this, and your sister wanted me to tell you this. So I know for sure that she's there. And earlier this year in February, I did a presentation at the Hayden Planetarium at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. And planetariums are like big domes, right? And you can put this presentation, you can like project all the universe onto this dome. So when you do the presentation, you feel like you're flying through the stars. It's my most favorite thing about this work, is to give people the perspective of flying through the stars. And so while we were there in New York City, I knew Sash was going to be there with me. I knew that. But I don't see spirits. But one of Sasha's gifts was that she could see in people's eyes that could see spirits. That was Sasha's gift. She would tell me all the time. She would be like, did you see that people's eyes? That person's eyes? I'm pretty sure they can see spirits. And I was like, no, I can't see that. That's your gift. That's not mine. And so while we were in New York City at the planetarium, the lady that worked at the door, she could see spirits. That was her gift. And she was just a young lady. And the reason she knew it was my sister, because at the beginning of my presentation, I show a picture of Sash when I begin all the time, because this is her work that I'm continuing. And so that lady could see Sash standing beside me inside the planetarium. And Sash seen her, and Sash was like, what, you can see me? And that lady was like, yeah, I can see you. And she said, will you tell my family something for me? And that lady was like, yeah, I can try. And so they were communicating, right? And after my presentation, that lady, she was like, I got to tell somebody. There was 450 people there. That lady was like, I gotta tell somebody. And the person she told, she's like, I need to talk to the presenter. How do I get to the presenter? The person she said that to was my mom. Out of 450 people, the person she said that to was my mom. She said, I have a message for Sam from her sister. And my mom was like, those are my daughters. And so my mom came and found me. She's like, you got to go talk to this lady. She's waiting for you outside of the planetarium. And when I looked at her, it was like she was just glowing. She just had this glow around her. And so I hurried up and I went and seen her, and she told me, she said, I have a message from your sister, and I was scared to tell you because I didn't want you to think I was crazy. And I was like, I don't think you're crazy. Like, this is your gift. You know, I believe in all this stuff. This is your gift, and you really have to nurture it. And she said, I have a message from your sister. And she said, your sister is so proud of you that you're doing this work, and that she's always going to help you. She'll always be there to help you. And when I hugged that lady, she was just a small lady. When I hugged that lady, she became my sister for like 2 minutes. And she said, I love you, sissy. And then my family was standing behind me. And I was like, hurry up, come and hug this lady. And my nephew came over there. And when she seen him, she was like, you're getting so big. And then my brother came over and she was like, hi, brother. And then my mom came over. She was like, I love you, mom. And that lady, she was like, that's not me saying that. And so for those 2 minutes, she let my sister be her. We got to hug my sister one last time. And I know it'll happen again. I'm pretty sure it'll happen again. Whenever Sash finds someone that she can connect to. And, you know, it's like, I feel like we live in a world of like, I don't believe it until I see it. I've seen a lot of things, so I believe a lot of things. And that ceremony of death and that ceremony of birth and life, they're all equal and they're all just as special. And we're all going to make that journey one day. And we would want our family, our loved ones here, to keep their grief in the light. Because when our loved ones, you know, when it comes to their time to pass away, it takes a lot of courage for them to make that journey because they'll do everything they can to stay here. You know, sometimes they're really sick, but they'll hang on as long as they can because they do that for us. I have grandparents still. My grandpa is 89 and my Aksa, my grandma is 87. They were both sick at the same time a couple months ago. My Aksa, she had pneumonia. My grandpa, he got cancer in his throat. And they were both at the same hospital. My Aksa was on the 5th floor. My grandpa was on the 4th floor. And I'm like going back and forth. And I was like, you guys better not die on me at the same time. And they were like, we won't. Don't worry. And I was like, that's not fair for me to say that. I have no control over how many days they're going to be here on this earth world. I just have to cherish every single day I can with them. And that's what we do with our families. And sometimes we slip into the darkness of grief, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, I can't do this by myself. I need help. Can you pull me out? And when you ask for help, those helpers will come. They'll align with you. But you have to be okay to say that you need help. It's okay. It's a natural thing to say you need help with your grief. I just moved in with my grandpa. I'm taking care of him. His cancer, like it, he got radiation, and it the growth stopped growing. So he's like, the doctors are like, he's this little miracle child person. They're like, we don't know. In September, the doctors told him we only had a couple of months to live. And now they're like, you could live for years probably. We don't know. So you can't believe doctors just because they put these dates on things that they have no control over. And so my grandpa, he's doing well. And my Aksa, she's doing well. They're both home. It's like they're not together, they're in-laws. It's like my mother's mother and my father's father, but we all hang out. And people think that they're my parents, but they're my grandparents. And so I'm real thankful for the days that I have with them. And so sometimes you have to prepare for things. Having those open conversations about death, they should be natural. My grandparents are the only ones that I've had open conversations about death with. Like they've told me, we've planned their funerals. They've told me the clothes they want to wear, the food that they want to have there. We've had all of those conversations. And those were conversations I had to have with my sister too. And she could have probably made her journey and not come out of that surgery. But we were given, 5 extra days to have those conversations. So when you have that time, have those conversations with your family. It's okay. It's not morbid to talk about death. Death is a ceremony. Grief is a ceremony. And they're real special things. And I think a lot of times when we lose people, we're sad because we think that we're losing all of their goodness. We think that we're losing all of their knowledge. We think that they're taking all of that with them. I hear people say that's a tough loss. That person knew a lot of stuff. But they say that there comes a time when our loved ones, they send that goodness back. They send their teachings back. They send their gifts back. And so a couple years ago, I was laying there in the middle of the night. It was like 3:00 in the morning, and I was like, when do they start to send their gifts back? When does this happen? And I just heard this voice in my head, and it said, in a shooting star. And so even scientifically, when a star passes away, it turns into dust. It's called a supernova. We have to think of it just as special that when our loved ones pass away, they've just become a supernova. And the iron that's in a dust from a star that has gone supernova is the actual iron that makes our blood red, even scientifically. But our people have known this. And so when I think about when they start to send their gifts back, and that voice in my head said in a shooting star, I start to kind of look up like do more research. Like, what is a shooting star, anyways? And a shooting star isn't exactly a shooting star, it's a meteor. And a meteor is a rock. And when that rock comes across the sky and enters into Earth's atmosphere, it starts to burn up. And that's what we see and what we think to be a shooting star. A lot of times it'll turn into dust. If it stays intact, it becomes a meteoroid. If it makes it to Earth, it becomes a meteorite. A couple years ago, scientists found DNA in meteorites that made it to Earth. And so this is my theory, but I share it because it makes my heart happy. This is how I think our loved ones start to send their gifts back. Because how come we feel so lucky when we see a shooting star? How come we wish on shooting stars? And how come sometimes we just know how to do things that no one ever taught us? And so when there's a meteor shower, I imagine that to be like big day in Sky World. And all of our loved ones are up there. They're all like packing up their gifts. And they're like, what are you going to send back? What are you going to send back? And so the next time you see a shooting star, which is actually a meteor, give thanks to it. Because somebody just got their family's gifts back. And it could be you. And so my only hope with sharing this information is that I hope that even if it just brings light, a little bit of light to the grief that you're feeling. That's my hope with sharing this information. And that you can surround your grief with love, because that love will neutralize it. And be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself for the rest of today. Take a deep breath. A lot of times when we're grieving, we breathe like really shallow. And we don't take those deep breaths. So take a deep breath and let that go. And be kind to yourself for the rest of the day today, for the rest of the year. It's almost over. We can start fresh again. And just know that your loved ones are always there. You're never alone. And sometimes you might miss them. I also think that there's a such thing as a weekend pass. So when I was in a coma, I remember I kept asking, like, can I get a weekend pass? Can I go back for the weekend? And they're like, oh, we're going to have to figure that out. And then when I got home, when I got out of the hospital and I was home, I had a dream about my sister. And I was like, what are you doing here? Did you get a weekend pass? She's like, yeah, but I got a lot to do. I got to go see this person. I got to go see this person. And my cousin, she had the same dream that Sash had a weekend pass. So it came from like 3 separate sources. That's kind of how I do my research. It's like, if it came to me from 3 separate sources, then there was a reason for it. And so I do believe there's a such thing as a weekend pass. And sometimes you might just feel like your loved ones are around. And so just do the things that they love to do. Have their favorite meal. Make them a plate. Have a conversation with them. When you can make a plate for them and you can leave it on the counter. You can put it out for them in the morning, early in the morning. You can do those things. You can get to a place where, you can do things in their memory. A lot of when you get to that keeping your grief in the light, you're able to do things in honor of them. And they like that too, So those are many different things that are like real dear to my heart. And I'm thankful that I'm here to share them with you all. And I just hope it helps everyone keep their grief in the light just a little bit more. So, Yawa, thank you for joining me and listening today. And be kind to yourself.
Like it's so beautiful to watch you. There are messages in the side that I'm watching. My Kleenex box is like 5 feet away. I should have brought that closer. Samantha, you're amazing. Nyawa, for sharing. I'm going to share some of these beautiful comments from some people that you know and some that you don't, that have thanked you for time and your vulnerability in sharing. You said a lot in this talk, and your experiences that resonate with me. I mean, we could use this as a like a whole teaching session. You talked about change, and how you have to change to even heal. You have to understand, like, every time we go through grief, it is about change, because something's going to change in you. And so you just such a beautiful storyteller. And now I know why we couldn't connect the last 2 days, and why you're not allowed to use your PowerPoint. I can't, I couldn't I tried to remove my smile, but when you tell your story, you tell these experiences, your smile is so vibrant, and you just exude love in how you share that. And so that's the light that I saw and felt through, this platform. Being able to do this is a pure gift. And that's actually how this platform began. It was because I connected with my ancestors and my grandmother's voice. That and being here today with you reminded me why I'm doing this, because it was this urge. I've been talking about starting our stories, and it's been, little morsels are, of messages coming and reminding me to do what makes my heart happy, which was to continue to meet others, who've had similar experiences, and knowing that if we share them with others, that creates that healing, and it reminds people that we're not alone, and you're not alone. And I'm just really super grateful. I'm going to share some of the beautiful messages and that people have dropped in the chat, and just want to thank everyone for being so patient. As we finish up our time, thank you, Samantha, so much again for your courage and vulnerability and sharing your journey with us. And your words remind us of the power of keeping, grief in the light, and how honoring our pain can bring us closer to understanding and healing and love. And to everyone who joined us today, Nyawa, Chi Miigwech, thank you for listening with an open heart, and for holding space for the experiences and the stories that and the teachings that Samantha has included, and for walking alongside us on this journey, Grandmother's Voice, and taking this moment in time to recognize the voices of our ancestors, and knowing that they guide us. And when you connect to yourself and your source and whatever you call it, you'll hear them, and you may not see them. And everything that you shared about that, Samantha, was so powerful. So many people have no idea how easy it could be, or how hard it could be, or this concept, because I really believe that this is a part of the reconciliation. Colonization and the history of this country and what happened in this country blocked it. It separated us from that. Separated Indigenous people, all people, from a belief system that is inherent to us. And this this opportunity to be able to, share is really awesome. So, Nyawa to the sisters that are watching and those who have been sharing their stories along the way. This is a really amazing opportunity to share, the stories that are not just ours to tell, and they're threads in a much larger tapestry, woven with the experiences of those who came before us and those who will come after. And if you feel called to share your story or you know someone, I already have a list of others that are ready to share. And so I look forward to bringing more of the life experience, lived experiences, and voices through our platform. And I guess stepping away with this thought about listening, always listening to the voices of our ancestors and honoring the light in each other so that we can walk forward together with courage and kindness. And until next time, let's keep the stories alive and keep the fire burning. That's for you, Jane. Nyawa, Nyawa, Nyawa for everyone for joining us. And have a wonderful holiday season.
Yeah. Yawa for joining. Until next time.
Oh yeah, if you want, we can share in the chat how people can reach you, Samantha, for sharing, your stories and business, because a lot of our community watches. So I know a lot of educators and organizations love to bring you in to share your presentations that are full of knowledge and healing and inspiration. So we can share that. You can reach out to us directly, or we'll pop it in the chat and you can come back to the platform and look for that information. So
Thank you for my email.
Okay, yeah, great. Nyawa.
Yeah, Yawa for the invitation.